We have more on this story and all of today's news,
And
weather,
now,
and sports
you just
starting at
crossed
5
over
o'clock on
into
WNCT
the
9
Logan
on
Zone.
Woodside.
From ECU Pirate football to the whole college landscape to basically anything else that's on his mind, Coach Steve Logan's talking about it now.
You don't coach at East Carolina. You don't come to East Carolina. You don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart.
Tweet at Steve Logan Show with your takes or call 252-561-GAME for your spot in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles. Now, here's Steve Logan.
Good deed goes unpunished, babe, and no good turn goes unburned. With all the mistakes that I seem to make, sometime you think that I'd learn.
Welcome to the Logan Zone. Little Jimmy Thackeray bringing us into the Blues Arena, mixed with a little football. And love for anybody and everybody to join in. 252-561-4263. That is the number to call if you want to join in, and I will drop any and everything I'm doing to visit with you. 252-561-4263, or you can tweet at Steve Logan Show. Philip, are you on board? You producing away over there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna fool them so they at least think I am. That's the key thing.
Hey, I used to tell people all the time, in a leadership position, make sure nobody knows that you don't know what you're doing. That's the key to leadership. I know there's a lot to that, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. By the way, did you make the trip to the Liberty game?
No, sir. I get stuck here in the gloomy studio, unfortunately. I kind of glad I didn't go up there because that was a rough night from what I hear.
Well, I talked with Andrew Bays, who does the traveling. He's the color commentator on the road, I understand. And he told me that he got back into town, I think 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And that's kind of what I thought was going to happen with the entire outfit after, the lightning thing. I have a quick story, a coaching story about the new device. It was in the mid-'90s, and we were practicing football at East Carolina. And, of course, as everybody knows, East Carolina gets lots of thunderstorms. It's kind of routine. And out of nowhere, we were practicing football. And, of course, there were storms all around. And one of the little trainers, like a student trainer, came up to me and said, "Coach, we're going to have to call practice." And I looked at it was a young lady, one of the intern type young ladies that helped in the training room. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she showed me this little device and, a little handheld something, magic something. And she said, this shows that we've got lightning. And I said, "Lightning? Where? I haven't seen any lightning." "Well, it was like, I don't know, 10, 15 miles away," she said. And I said, "Well, here's a news flash for you. If you ever bring that device out here again, I'm going to fire everybody." And that was the last time we ever did the lightning gauge at a Logan Zone football practice. So there's that. And, I'm not quite ready for that. I'm the old man screaming, "Get off my lawn." Again, I've repeated this a million times. I was a cowboy born exactly 100 years too late for that kind of stuff. So anyway, the football team at East Carolina gets to sit in the locker room for close to 4 hours and then come out and play in front of an empty stadium that was, previous to that, I understand it was the largest crowd in the Liberty's football history. And, just one more car wreck for technology. And it didn't save anybody, it just didn't. I'm sorry. I'm very pessimistic about that kind of stuff. So Anyway, I got that off my chest. Philip, who was our winner last year of the Bojangles tailgate package?
Pirate Al won last week, and we now actually have Kevin on the line right now. He just called in.
We got a caller already. I haven't even gotten started, and we got Kevin on the line. Kevin, what you got, buddy? Kevin, are you there?
I am.
I can't hear him. Yeah, Kevin, I got you now.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Go right ahead.
I'm looking forward to talking to you every week, Coach. I was just curious to kind of change the subject a little bit. What your opinion was of what happened at UNLV this week, where the quarterback claimed he wasn't getting paid, so he quit, but the school says he wanted more money, and what the Steve Logan solution to a situation like that would be.
Kevin, I appreciate the call, and I've got on my list of topics to talk about. Of course, that's sweeping the internet right now. This is more unintended consequences of the Wild West that the college football landscape has become, and I think everybody that follows college football knows what happened. But just a quick recap: the young man claims that UNLV, he's the starting quarterback, and evidently, UNLV is 3-0 right now with 2 victories over Power 4 conference teams, which vaulted them into the top 25, I think. And so the young man that's playing quarterback, his last name is Sluka, I believe, S-L-U-K-A. Is that correct, Philip? So the young man's last name is Sluka, and he claims that UNLV promised him $100,000, and so far had only given him $3,000. And of course, UNLV came out and said nobody promised him that amount of money. So you've got a he said, she said operation going on down there. But this goes back to last year when I started doing this show last year. We were doing it on a 1 hour. I was just doing 1 hour a week. It was kind of a trial balloon to see where the show might go. And it gained a little traction. And so, hey, let's do 2 hours this week. But this season. But last year, I made the comment that the days of program building where you recruit a player, you bring him in, you redshirt him, you're putting him in the weight room, you're getting his nutrition right, you're getting his mind right, and you're creating a college football player where before you just had a high school kid. Those days are going to be fading. They're not going to disappear, but they're fading. And in replacement of that, in replacement to program building is roster management. Well, roster management, and I want to say what I'm going to say without it appearing that I'm really, really smart. I'm not. But I closed out my career in professional football. Now, what that did give me that I know for a fact the head coach at UNLV doesn't have really any connection. He doesn't have a place to operate from relative to contracts and securing basically somebody that's just a subcontractor. That's what pro football is. And my introduction into pro football, I spent 3 years in NFL Europe, and I was really, really grateful I got to do that before entering the NFL proper, because it really educated me about the culture of professional football and how it operates. In NFL Europe, we had 45 professional football players on our roster. And it became apparent to me on day one that I was coaching in Berlin, the Berlin Thunder. Now, understand, this was all run by the NFL. Okay, the NFL owned this. They ran this. It doesn't exist anymore. It was a great idea to help get the younger, first and second year players some game experience, which in the NFL proper, nobody plays but the starting 22 unless somebody gets hurt. But back to what I was talking about, it dawned on me very, very quickly, like our football team at the Berlin Thunder would be 3 or 4 guys from the Denver Broncos, 3 or 4 guys from the San Francisco 49ers, 3 or 4 guys from the Dallas Cowboys, and that made up your football team. Well, all of those guys on day one of the first practice, all of those guys had a heightened sense of selfishness built into their daily practice. And it's understandable because their careers are on the line daily. And this was different for me coming out of college football, where it was one for all for one. You know, the team really mattered. It really mattered. And I learned very quickly that working with professional athletes, the team only mattered the deeper into the season you got and you had a winning record with a chance to get to the playoffs, which meant more money for the individual subcontractor, that being the player. That was a real education for me. But to my credit, I caught on really quickly. And I understood where they were coming from. So I mention all that just to say this. If you're going to, the college coaches, and this is going to hit a little close to home what I'm getting ready to say. If you go out and pay a player and it turns out he doesn't start for you, that's a problem. So you've misevaluated something. You spent money where it shouldn't have been spent. This is how and why general managers get fired in the National Football League. The case in point, how about Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers? We sold the farm to get the first pick in the draft. Bryce Young, guess what? Didn't work out. This has already cost one coach his job, and it's probably going to cost them another coach, and they're going to have to turn that entire roster over. And as I mentioned in last week's show, I got caught up in that out in San Francisco. And when it's apparent that there's a problem with the quarterback situation that's got to be amended, it affects the entire roster. It affects coaching staff. It affects management. And owners are not patient. And again, I'm going to bring all this back to what we're talking about. The quarterback at UNC came in, according to him, he was going to get $100,000, and he only ended up getting $3,000 at the end of 3 weeks, and he quit. And the UNLV people are saying, nobody promised that kid $100,000. Well, you got he said, she said, which gets back to this basic thing. It's just inconceivable that either the player or the coach would have even taken step number one. It would have been inconceivable to me as the head coach of UNLV to let that young man into the locker room to get dressed for the first practice without a written contract. Literally, a written contract. And I'm going to tell you where this is going to lead to. This is a little bit of NFL education. Let's say, and I've got an entire segment here ready to go about buying a quarterback, and I've got 13 or 14 football teams in the NCAA that have done that this year, including East Carolina. And the results of those bought quarterbacks, it'll surprise you what the results have been so far 4 weeks into the season. But here's the point. In the NFL, if you're going to go out and you draft a guy, all right, or let's go to the NFL where at the end of 3 years or 4 years, I forget which it is, you can enter into a second contract. That second contract is negotiated, and here's how it works. The player says, hey, I want all my money guaranteed. And the owner goes, no way. And then it goes back and forth, and pretty soon they agree to a certain amount of the money guaranteed. And then the player, I think right now the NFL plays 17 football games. The players are paid 1/17 of their salary each Tuesday morning. If you go in an NFL locker room, there's a check on each stool or locker. That's their check for the game they played 3 days ago on Sunday. It's 1/17 of their salary. Well, I got news for you. If I was a head college coach tomorrow and I went out to buy a quarterback, this is exactly the way that I would go about things. I would say to Johnny, the quarterback, Johnny, I want you to come to Logan Zone University. And he would say, how much are you going to give me? And I'd say, well, how much do you want? And he would say, $100,000. And I'd say, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm not going to give you $100,000. Now, let's hold that thought for a minute. Somebody else may give him a straight up 100. And if they do, I would probably drop out of the bidding for that kid. But the way I would go about my business, I'd say, Johnny, I really want you. And I've got a proven record as a quarterback teacher. Okay? I've got an offense that's quarterback friendly, and do all of my sales pitch. And then I would say to him, you want 100,000? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to guarantee you 40. I'm going to guarantee you $40,000. We've got 12 games to play. You will get 1/12 of the remaining $60,000 each week. And that way we could go about our business, and let's say, like happened in some place very local here, and I'm not being critical, I'm just talking about what's happening to the college coaches right now. They're on a steep learning curve of how to be a general manager and deal with money and contracts. Let's say at the end of 4 weeks, the player that I bought wasn't performing, and I put him on the bench, and he quit, like UNLV's has done, even though they didn't have a contract in place. If that young man quit on me and refused to be the backup quarterback, guess what? He walks out. I save 1/12 of $60,000 times however many Saturdays are left in the season. And it's harsh. It's business. You know the old saying, it's not personal, it's business. It's business now, sport fans. I got news for you, little 19, 20-year-old Johnny quarterback. This is straight up, hard-nosed, hardcore football business. And that's just the way it's going to be. And that's how it's going to end up being, and that's where it's headed. And right now, there's a ton of college football coaches out there that have never been around what it is I'm speaking to. And again, it doesn't make me smarter. It makes me more experienced. And experience does lead to wisdom. Wisdom leads to better answers, better solutions. But that's coming. There's going to be a negotiation. And there's going to be some give and take from player to institution. And these contracts are going to be, they're going to have to be written out rock solid, stamped, notarized. That's all there is to it. I hear the blues creeping in. If you want to get in on the show, give me a call, 252-561-4263. I got a lot of stuff to get to here. Great question by Kevin. I appreciate you calling in, man. You can tweet me at Steve Logan Show. We'll be right back.
To be with you again, I would do anything.
At Flatlands Justice Insurance Group, our goal is to turn everyone we talk to into a customer for life. It's a fundamental difference between us and other agencies. We aren't trying to just sell you something. We're asking questions to understand your situation so we can find a solution that fits your budget and your needs. It's a partnership aimed at protecting the things that matter most to you, like your family, your health, your assets, and your time. Our customers don't see us as salesmen. They see us as partners in problem solving. See the difference for yourself. Flatlands Justice Insurance Group, your whole world covered.
If you need roofing or gutter work on your home in eastern North Carolina, you need Jim Wells and his team at Wells Roofing and Gutters. Here's Curtis James from Pirate Crawl Space Services in Greenville.
It's been very positive, just very responsive, responds in a timely manner, and the work is done really quickly.
When you hire Jim Wells, you can believe the job will be done right, and it'll be quality work. So if you need roofing or gutter work, you should contact Jim Wells at 252-227-8403.
Get back to work, back to play, and back to the everyday with Orthopedics East and Sports Medicine Center in Greenville. Ortho East specializes in advanced care for patients with osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, debilitating joint diseases, and total joint replacements. Schedule your appointment today by going online to orthoeast.com or by calling us at 252-757-BONE. And remember, our weekend extended care clinic is open from 10 to 2 p.m. for walk-ins. Orthopedics East, official team physicians of ECU Athletics.
Wear your colors with pride, whether it be ECU or any of the high schools in Pitt County. Stadium Sports on Charles Boulevard has all the merchandise and tailgating gear for the season. Stadium Sports is where the Pirate Nation shops. And it's also the place for hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, and hats to show your support of your favorite Pitt County high school. With tons of brands like Adidas, 1211 Designs, Champion, Cutter & Buck, Costa, Calcutta, and more. You'll find the style you want. Check out the new t-shirts and hats from Pirate Coast. Stadium Sports beside the railroad overpass on Charles Boulevard, Greenville.
ECU football season means Dunkin' Donuts pumpkin spice season. Dunkin' has all your fall favorites. Pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin donuts, and pumpkin munchkins. Ready for you all week long. Plus, you can have all your pre-game and post-game beverages ready for you with your Dunkin' Rewards mobile app. Get a taste of fall by visiting your local Dunkin' Donuts today. With locations in Greenville, Rocky Mount, Nashville, and Wilson. Say goodbye to summer and hello to fall with Dunkin'.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Coach Logan's in the zone. And now, so are you. Back into the Logan Zone, brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
Hey gal, don't you hear me calling you? She's so sweet, so sweet.
Back in the Logan Zone. Little Doc Watson doing some blues there. Acoustic blues, you can't beat it, man. Even though Greenville Utilities has a reliability rate of more than 99.99%, sometimes outages happen, and just like in football, you need to have a plan for what to do just in case. Right now, grab your cell phone, open the contacts list, and add GUC's emergency hotline as a contact. Here's the number to use, 1-855-767-2482. That's 855-SOS-2-GUC. Plan on using that instead of fumbling around and look for the number when the lights go out. All right. You can get in on this show at 252-561-4263. You can hit me with a tweet at Steve Logan Show. We are on Facebook Live, YouTube, live on the radio, IBX Media app. We're all over the world. So there you go. So I got into, this story that's sweeping college football about the UNLV quarterback that's walked out in a dispute over money. And that leads me, is a great segue. This morning I bumped into an article and it got me to, doing some research. I know it shocks everybody that I actually put time in preparing for this show, but I do. So the people, I want to just talk to the fans a little bit. When it became apparent that you could go out and, for lack of a better word, buy a football player for your football team, which is exactly, you can say what you want. You got a collective, you got NIL, whatever it is. You're buying players. You can buy a player. Let me put it that way. Well, there was a sense, and I was right there in the crowd, and I still am. I'm in the crowd that, this is magnificent. We can go solve the most immediate problem, and that would be quarterback. And Lord knows, we all now understand and playing football in 2024, it's a quarterback-centric game. For those people out there that are my age, you're 60, you're 70, you grew up in an age where the quarterback could be literally just a guy. To do what? Toss the ball to Herschel Walker. Toss the ball to Bo Jackson. It was a tailback-oriented idea. That's what football was in the I formation days, which was a long time. And the other thing, the option football brought in a different quarterback attribute. This was a young man that could make quick decisions at the line of scrimmage, whether to hand the football off, keep the football, or pitch the football. You still see this today with Army, Air Force, and Navy. Georgia Tech was the last of the major colleges that was using that idea, and it's a valid idea to this day. You're seeing some of it in spread offenses where quarterbacks are running what's called RPOs. But back to what I was talking about, this idea that, the game of football from 1960, 1970, 1980, early 90s, things begin to shift, spread offenses and collegiate teams. And again, I was right there in the middle of this. Bill Walsh affected college football coaches a great deal because Bill Walsh was the first guy to figure out, and these are general statements that are generally true now. Bill Walsh was the first guy to figure out that, hey, throwing the football short and then running with the football after the catch is a superior model to what was previous to that. It was you're throwing deep passes, intermediate passes, 16, 18 yards down the field, hoping to goodness you could complete 50% of them. And suddenly Walsh comes around and they're completing 68% of their passes. But there were short controlled passes that we've all become accustomed to now, and that was termed the West Coast offense. So this has evolved into, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you figure out that, we don't even need a running back. If you got one, that's fine, but you don't need him. What you need is some wide receivers. You need to spread the field and create some space for your playmakers to get away from a tackler and go score a touchdown. That's the way the game's played these days. And so that gets all the way back to let's go buy a quarterback. Well, let's start with some of the people that found themselves in this position at the beginning of the season. I'm going to talk football teams now at the collegiate level that entered into what we might call quarterback free agency. And I started off, and so, of course, I'm from Oklahoma. Well, the University of Oklahoma started the season. They were ranked in the top 10 and, the normal Oklahoma stuff. And sure enough, Oklahoma's got a top 10 defense. There's no question they've got that. They've got great players on the defensive side of the ball. They got a defensive head coach in Brent Venables, and they play defense. They're going to do that. Okay? So Oklahoma University let Dylan Gabriel, who's a really good football player, they let him go to Oregon. Now, Brent Venables addressed this the other day that Dylan Gabriel didn't quit. He just wanted to go get into a different situation. There were a lot of circumstances involved, but the point is they lost Dylan Gabriel. OU goes with Jackson Arnold. Okay? And Jackson Arnold got benched 3 games into the season. And Oklahoma, of course, we saw the Tennessee game, couldn't score against tall grass, much less a Tennessee defense. And guess what? They put that kid on the bench, and now they're down to Michael Hawkins. The point about Oklahoma is they failed in quarterback free agency, and it's going to cost them a season. Okay? So let's label Oklahoma University a bust in quarterback free agency. I'm going to hold that right there. I think we've got a caller on the phone. We've got a caller, Philip?
Yep, we have Jeff on the line.
Hey, Jeff, what you got going, man?
Hey, Coach, thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it. Along the NIL lines and looking over the years, I've been an ECU fan for many, many years. And the one thing that always stuck out to me with you as a coach is developing leadership from the players, player leadership, leaders on the team. And I'm just wondering with this NIL thing, when people just coming in because they're going to come in and get a paycheck, as opposed to like you said, a kid, you wanted special people to come to ECU. If you're going to come and play at ECU, you're looking for a particular special person that wants to be a Pirate. And I'm just wondering, like this year, are we having problems with the team because of lack of leadership? And what's this NIL deal going to do with having players as leaders and leading the team? Now, I'll hang up and listen to your comments. Thanks, Coach.
Okay, well, Jeff, that's a legitimate, if I'm sitting in a head coach's office right now, believe me, that's a legitimate issue, and I can give you a quick answer to that, and it has to do with what I mentioned if you listen to the previous segment of what I was just talking about. When I wandered into professional football, it was at the NFL Europe level, and then after I did that for 3 years, and then I was in the NFL for 4 years after that. But here's the thing about the team aspect when you're paying players. They are interested and they're cohesive in training camp because everybody's hopes are high. And once you get into the season, if you begin to win, the cohesiveness can grow and they're committed, okay, to the team. If you begin to lose, and this is true whether the players are getting paid or not, but when you begin to lose games, the cohesiveness begins to break apart and everybody runs to their little corners and hides because they don't want to be blamed. Assistant coaches do that. Players do that. Because there is, you got to remedy the situation, and that requires identifying performances that aren't up to par. Well, when you add money to that, now things become very fragile. Very fragile. And so it's going to exacerbate the issue. It's going to exacerbate this problem that we're speaking about right now. When things get tough, I care about me and me only and my paycheck. And whether it's East Carolina or North Carolina State, and North Carolina State's dealing with something right now. And so is the University of North Carolina. And I'm going to get to all those, as I go down my list. But this idea of, hey, I want to be a Pirate. Well, not necessarily. East Carolina paid me more money than the other school did. That's why I'm here. And then from that point on, you're just hoping it works out. But it's not, I'm just telling you, everybody's going to have to rethink and relearn your point of reference. Because, win one for the Gipper is over. It's over. And let me put it this way to you. Let's just imagine this. Lane Kiffin was forward thinking, and he went out 2 years ago ahead of everybody, really, maybe 3. And he was bringing in 19, 20 portal kids. Bang, bang, bang. He put together Ole Miss football team, and they're good. They're real good. And they were winning 10 games, and they've won 10 games a year the last 2 or 3 years. But just imagine for a minute if all of a sudden Lane Kiffin started off 0-4. I can tell you right now, there's going to be a jailbreak. The locker room is going to be a toxic mess. Everybody's going to blame everybody. And just like here was a little story that went under the radar because we're talking about the UNLV quarterback situation that went nationwide. Did you see the big time defensive lineman at the University of Southern California? He quit this week, I think 2 days ago, because he wasn't getting enough playing time. And I guarantee he's getting paid something. But his idea of the way things should go, and it's always interesting to me, the defensive lineman at Southern California quit after a loss to Michigan. Had they won that Michigan game, I promise you privately, that kid would have gone, well, I think I'll stay with it another week. But at the first sign of adversity, and this is what was so delicate working in the NFL, and I've told some people this story. Okay. I went to work one day with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we were having a hard time one stretch. And I walked into the building, and I put my right hand over my left shoulder and just kind of walked into my meeting that day, and I kept my right hand over my left shoulder. And one of the players said, "Steve, what is that? What are you doing with your hand over your shoulder?" I said, "I'm getting ready to pull the ripcord. That's what. Because I'm walking around this building, and I'm seeing all the players just pulling the ripcord. Not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm not going to accept responsibility." And when that seeps into your organization, it's really hard to dig out of. You know, the point is, you have to win the game just to be able to manage the self-interests that are involved, particularly where there's money involved. And it's a delicate issue. And it makes me respect beyond respect guys like John Harbaugh, that's been the head coach of the Ravens for I don't know how many years. Bill Belichick, how many years did he manage that? You know, the long-term NFL coaches, of which there are very few, and how they've managed that. Well, basically they manage it by winning. All right? Because I'm sitting here right now. Let me tell you what I'm talking about, and this will put it into perspective for you. You know, tonight the Dallas Cowboys are going to play a football game. Do you know the last 2 weeks they've been absolutely embarrassed nationally? Do you know, I'm telling you right now, Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Cowboys, is sitting in his hotel room right now, pregame, and he knows full well if he goes out there and loses that game tonight, Jerry Jones may fire him, because you'll begin to lose the locker room. What's the locker room made of? 53 independent contractors that are beginning to quit on the leadership. And that's happening now at the collegiate level too. And it's a surprise to the college coaches that have never been around this idea before. I told a friend of mine the other day, if I was shopping for a new head coach at the collegiate level, do you know who I would go hire? John Gruden. I'd go hire him so fast, and I don't want to hear about all that monkey business they drummed up about his emails and this and that and the cancel culture. That was a hit job. The NFL wanted John Gruden out of the NFL. Well, they got that done, okay? And I just barely know John. I've met him a couple of times. But I know this. He could walk into this environment at the collegiate level. He could bring the star power like Deion Sanders did to Colorado. He could bring the star power. He would know exactly what he's walking into. And he would get his hands on that collective money, and he would begin to negotiate and build a football team and manage all of the subcontractors in the locker room in a way that comes only from experience. I'll let that marinate. Managing subcontractors. I'm going to tell you what. And my favorite group was the wide receivers. Don't get me started on that. We'll be right back after this little break. You're in the Logan Zone. Give me a call, 252-561-4263, or tweet me at Steve Logan Show.
Medlin Chevrolet is your trusted Ayton dealership. Medlin Chevrolet has made their home in Ayton, serving Pitt, Lenoir, and surrounding areas for 7 years. Because of local support and dedicated employees, we are growing. Just breaking ground on our brand new service facility to serve you even better. Medlin Chevrolet has an incredible pre-owned vehicle inventory. Our staff are courteous and service-minded professionals that provide value and integrity Monday through Saturday. Find the perfect vehicle for your lifestyle today at Medlin Chevrolet, Highway 11, Ayton.
Remember the days when you could go to your favorite butcher shop and get your pork chops or steaks cut just the way you like them? Well, you still can. Acre Station Meat Farm on Highway 32 in Pinetown, north of Washington, is Eastern Carolina's traditional butcher shop. Acre Station is where you can get your order cut the way you want it. The best sausage, bacon, and pork chops and steaks you'll ever taste. The short trip to Acre Station is worth the drive.
At Acre Station, you just get that good, friendly service you just can't find anymore.
I guarantee it's the best sausage and bacon you'll ever eat.
Get ready, Greenville. Jaggers is going to open a Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports soon. What are you excited to try? And what sets Jaggers apart? Everything, and I mean everything, is made from scratch. Burgers, chicken, and salads like you've never tasted. Shoestring fries, too. It's a fun environment. You just wait. If you haven't been to Jaggers, you just have to taste it for yourself. Nothing is prepackaged. You're going to love Jaggers. Coming soon to Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports in Greenville.
Anson Belt & Buckle offers a micro-adjustable, holeless belt, giving you the perfect fit every time. As an ECU alumni-owned business since 2009, Anson Belt is proud to be the official belt of East Carolina Athletics. Looking for a new belt for yourself or a special pirate? Visit AnsonBelt.com to see why over 30,000 customers have given their Anson Belt a 5-star review. With dozens of materials to choose from and thousands of possible combinations, you'll find the belt for every occasion, especially game day, at AnsonBelt.com.
Looking for outdoor storage, maybe a she shed, man cave, tiny home, or greenhouse? If so, East Carolina Outdoor Products is your one-stop shop. They carry wood sheds, small to large, all customizable online. East Carolina Outdoor Products also has a full line of custom steel buildings, including carports, garages, workshops, and commercial-graded structures. They're the only company in Eastern Carolina that manufactures, delivers, and sells outdoor storage buildings, and they're pirates. 10 locations in Eastern North Carolina.
Tell them Henry sent you for an additional discount.
Why just be a customer when you can be a priority? At North Carolina Farm Bureau, we're focused on your specific needs. That's why we have local agents working for you in every county across the state, offering competitive rates and fast, friendly service. It's more than insurance. It's the kind of treatment you deserve. Farm Bureau Insurance. Helping you is what we do best.
In Greenville, contact Bill King at 252-413-8850. That's Bill King at 252-413-8850.
Coach Steve Logan wants to hear from you. More from Coach Logan in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
Stays out all night. Could be maybe you ain't feeding him right. Give a dog a bone. Give a dog a bone. If you give a dog a bone, I declare stay right at home.
That's what you're going to have to do with these football players. Give them all a bone, and they might stay right there at home with you rather than run out halfway through the season. What you saw at UNLV and what you saw at kind of went under the radar, but I promise you it wasn't under the radar at Southern California. You lose a defensive lineman with as good as that kid, that's not good for your program, and it'll matter later on. So I started off the last segment, I've got a list of 13 schools here I just want to kind of buzz through. I was talking about how we all thought that quarterback free agency at the collegiate level is going to solve the problem of the most important position on your team. If you have a hole, go buy one. And there's lots of good ones out there, and that's the truth. There really is, from the standpoint of if Alabama's got 3 guys sitting in their quarterback room right now. Well, if you got enough money, go get the second one. If you can't get the second one, get the third one. Well, if there's 3 of them at Alabama, 3 of them at Georgia, and 3 of them all through the SEC, you've got a chance. You've got a chance to go find one. And then you go looking all over the country, kind of like North Carolina State did. They went down a level in an attempt to find one. And so there's all kinds of avenues to go to. But anyway, let's get back to the list, because I think you're going to find this interesting. We went over Oklahoma, and I labeled Oklahoma's quarterback free agency solution. And the results so far at the end of 4 or 5 weeks, it's a bust. They're in trouble. They're going to win games. They're going to win some games, but they're in trouble. They can't score points because of the quarterback problem. That takes me to Arkansas. They fired a kid named K.J. Jefferson, and they bought Talon Green from Boise. There's another situation where you went down a level, identified a talent. They brought him to Fayetteville, and the offense has improved from 69th to 20th in scoring. But the quarterback is only 53% complete, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So you got to rate that as a positive, okay? You're going to rate that as a positive. They did move up. They also brought in a new offensive coordinator, Bobby. I can't remember his name. He was the head coach at Arkansas, curiously enough. And he's back now as the offensive coordinator, and he is a good offensive football coach. So let's rate Arkansas positive on their quarterback acquisition journey. That takes us to what? Buckle your seatbelts. Florida State. Florida State needed a starter, and they pursued a young man named Cam Ward, and they pursued him heavily. They didn't end up securing his services because he was telling everybody he was going to enter the NFL draft. So they pivoted, and they settled on DJ, I can't say the young man's last name, Uiagalelei. Uiagalelei. There you go, Philip. Thanks for the help, buddy. They settled on DJ. The Florida State quarterback misfire has cost Florida State everything. It's an absolute, unmitigated disaster. And they're going to have to live with it all year long. So, the idea that, we're going to go just buy a guy. Now, here's the worst news about Florida State's little journey. They were all in on Cam Ward. They backed off because they were afraid he was going to go to the NFL. They settled on DJ. Cam Ward decides not to go to the NFL, and guess where Cam Ward is now? University of Miami, and he's lighting it up, buddy. He's got Miami, and, they're like the old Miami. They're back. So, let's call Florida State a disaster. Next up, Kansas State. Kansas State lost Will Howard to Ohio State. So they elevated a sophomore, Avery Johnson, who is 61% complete, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, with 261 yards of rushing. That turned out to be a positive. Now, what that tells you is this. Let me tell you about this quarterback thing. If I'm running a college program, yes, I'm interested in going out and purchasing a quarterback, probably every year. And I would keep the competition in that room so fierce that you would either get better or die, get better or leave. But I would constantly churn that room. And in the NFL, that's a common deal. You churn the position, and you make it to where it's so competitive, you're going to end up with some positive production, okay? But I would churn my quarterback room, all right? But here's what's interesting about Kansas State. They had a program player, a young man that had been in the program 2 years, who was able and capable of stepping up once the star player was bought away from me. I had a program player that was capable, that could come in and at least not shipwreck the program. Florida State didn't have that available. You better have somebody. The same thing happened over at Chapel Hill. Okay? Chapel Hill went out and bought the Texas A&M guy, and I'll get to that in a minute. He breaks his leg first play of the game, first play of the season. And at least they had that Connor Harrell kid come in. He's a program guy, but now that's gone sideways as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. But let's call the Kansas State quarterback journey positive. That takes us to Miami, which I just spoke about. Miami outbid Florida State for Cam Ward. Enough money to pull his name from the NFL draft. And guess what? Cam Ward is a Heisman candidate. Miami is in the top 10. Life's good. We're loving Miami football again. So let's count that as a positive. All right. Next, let's go to Michigan. We all know what Michigan did last year. And, of course, Michigan suffered a tremendous exodus of, brain power, leadership power, the Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator. I mean, everybody left. And Sherrod Moore gets the job, and he's doing a good job, best he can. But they chose to elevate Alex Orji to replace J.J. McCarthy, who was an NFL quarterback, no doubt about it. I think he went to the Vikings and immediately got injured. But guess what? The Orji kid, and this gets back, here's a Loganism for you now. I'm famous for this. Your football team is exactly as good as the backup quarterback. Let that soak in. Your football team is exactly as good as your backup quarterback, because when the starter gets hurt, guess what? Reality sets in. Well, they had a backup quarterback in their system, which I think is a positive, but the backup quarterback is named Alex Orji. Alex Orji's last year behind J.J. McCarthy, he was kind of a novelty quarterback. This gets back to another Loganism. The backup quarterback better match the hatch. What do I mean by that? If I've got Matt Ryan, which I did at Boston College, Matt Ryan was NFL in the pocket, had enough mobility to create a second play for me anytime the protection broke down, was unbelievable. Third pick of the NFL draft, made me look like a genius, had a ball coaching Matt Ryan. When I went out recruiting, which the only recruiting I agreed to do when I went back into college football, and it was in my contract, I would recruit a quarterback only. I would leave campus only if I chose to, and that would be concerning the quarterback position. I didn't show up for recruiting weekends. I didn't glad hand any of that monkey. I didn't do any of that. That's the only reason I agreed to go to Boston College, and that was written into my contract. But when I got to Boston College, Matt Ryan's senior year was coming up. I went through spring ball with Matt, fall ball with Matt, and then we had our 11-2 season, tore up college football, man. We were good. Well, I knew that he's leaving, right? I got to go get a quarterback. I went and got a quarterback that was built the same way as Matt Ryan. And the young man took Matt Ryan's place when Matt graduated, and we didn't miss a beat. And we went right back to the ACC championship game the next year without Matt Ryan. But I didn't have to change the offense. I didn't have to renegotiate how I was calling plays. I didn't have to do any of that monkey business. I just plugged the kid in, and off and running. Off we went. Michigan didn't do that. This young man is a novelty, wildcat kind of quarterback. And, buddy, let me tell you what, Michigan's offense is dead in the water when it comes to third down and 5 or more. Because if they got to throw the football, they can't, period. So they benched Alex Orji, and they tried Davis Warren, a former walk-on. They benched him and went back to Orji. Now, they beat Southern California last week with, I think, 80 yards passing in the game. That's not going to be sustainable. Certainly not through the Big Ten schedule. Now, Michigan's going to win their 9 games, and they're a good football team. They've got good football players, but they don't have a quarterback. Their quarterback journey I'm labeling as a bust. That leads us to North Carolina State. This is one that's really interesting. When I keep talking about college coaches not being really prepared to enter into this free agency and buying a football player, let me tell you this North Carolina State thing, okay? And this was news to me. Grayson McCall, again, North Carolina State went down a level to discover a guy. And Grayson McCall evidently has done a marvelous career at Coastal Carolina. But he missed the last 5 games of his senior year with a severe concussion. And North Carolina State still went ahead and pursued this kid to come in and be their savior. I got news for you. I've said in NFL draft meetings, If I'd have walked in and said, hey, let's draft Billy Bob over here, well, of course, we would go through everything about Billy Bob. Everything. Shoe size, eyesight, you name it. All of the health issues, nutrition, height, weight, 40-yard dash, all of it. And if it would have come up that he had missed 5 games his senior year at wherever we're trying to get him from due to a head injury, the general manager would have pulled out a shotgun and shot me in the face for wasting his time. You just can't do that. Well, North Carolina State brought Grayson in. Now, they still haven't announced what his injury is from 2 weeks ago, but let's get real. There was not a moment to where he was crumpled on the field, crying out in pain. He just simply exited the field at the end of a particular series 2 weeks ago and is yet to be heard from. Who's kidding who? Now, the good news for North Carolina State is they had a program guy, C.J. Bailey, who had come in during the spring. So he got a spring ball, he got a fall camp, and lo and behold, hey, CJ, you're up. Go to it, buddy. And he's done okay. He's done okay. So I'm going to give North Carolina State a neutral, not a positive, not a negative. They're in a manageable place right now. But that gets back to what I really believe is going to come to the surface. You better have a program guy in that quarterback room that when the crap hits the fan can come in and execute your offense, and he better match the hatch. We can't have a wishbone quarterback backing up a pocket passer and vice versa. It takes forethought. You have to have a contingency plan for everything. I get upset talking about it. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in the second hour right after these commercial messages. Stay with us.
When I was a child,
at CCS Equipment Sales, we're proud to be your one-stop certified Takeuchi construction equipment dealer. With more than 25 years in business, we understand the value of your time and work hard to provide solutions for you. From landscapers, grading, concrete, and land management contractors, whether it's Takeuchi excavators, track loaders, wheel loaders, and a wide range of attachments, we'll get what you need when you need it. Give our Aiden location a call, 252-712-1033, or visit ccsequipment.com.
As fall approaches, 2 things come to mind: football and cooler weather. This is Rachel Davis with Advanced Mechanical Heating and Air. We wanted to thank you for the trust you have put in us this summer. Before you know it, cooler temperatures will arrive, signaling winter is on the way. Don't wait. Prepare now for colder temperatures by scheduling a tune-up. Give us a call today at 252-355-9191 or visit our website, advancedmechnc.com.
Hey there, Eastern North Carolina. Jeff Stein at Brown & Wood. We have the 2024 Encore GX at 0.9 for 36 months. You heard it right, 0.9. We also have the Envision and the Enclave at 0.9. For GMC, we have the 2024 Sierra at 1.9%, the Terrain at 0.9%, and the all-new Hummer EV 849 lease for 24 months. Brown & Wood, 89 years in business in Greenville. 4 brands, 3 generations, 2 rooftops, and 1 goal to make sure you leave a happy customer.
I want to take a minute here to tell you about Bill Clark Homes. The football stadium, the baseball stadium, the Pirate Club, whatever it is, Bill Clark Homes has always been there for ECU. The reason they can do all of this is because Bill Clark Homes continues to build quality homes and neighborhoods in both the Greenville area and in the Wilmington area. And whether it's Greenville or Wilmington, you can choose your school district with several homes under construction and available now in both markets. Eastern North Carolina's premier home builder, Bill Clark Homes, building family trees. traditions.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Did you know that GUC's electric rates are the lowest in Pitt County? GUC's average residential electric bill using 1,000 kilowatt hours per month with load management is $21 lower than the investor-owned utilities and $34 lower than the local co-ops. In fact, GUC's average electric bills are still $10 lower than they were 10 years ago. Low rates with high reliability, that's the value of public utilities. That's the value of GUC.
94.3 The Game, WRHD HD1, Farmville, Greenville. Powered by the Ritchie Law Firm, North Carolina's injury lawyers. Visit GotBryan.com.
That's GotBryan.com.
And now, you just crossed over into the Logan Zone. From ECU Pirate football to the whole college landscape to basically anything else that's on his mind, Coach Steve Logan's talking about it now.
You don't coach at East Carolina. You don't come to East Carolina. You don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart.
Tweet at Steve Logan Show with your takes or call 252-561-GAME for your spot in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles. Now, here's Steve Logan.
Back in the Logan Zone for hour number 2. Going down the list of quarterback purchases that I found interesting throughout the NCAA. Just got through talking about the North Carolina State situation, which is all, right up front here in eastern North Carolina, people paying attention to that. That's going to be interesting. North Carolina State still has a chance to have a good football season and a decent football team. They've got issues now. They do. They've got issues on defense in particular, which is a surprise. But we'll get to some of that later. I do want to get through this list. I'm going to kind of jump to it pretty quick just to give everybody a perspective of where I think everybody was preseason about the idea of buying a quarterback and solving all your problems. The sixth team I looked at was Notre Dame. Notre Dame needed a quarterback. If you remember 2 years ago, they bought the quarterback from Wake Forest, and they did okay. The kid had a good year. This year, they came down and bought the kid from Duke, Riley Leonard, all right, for $1 million. That's fairly public knowledge. But anyway, so far, he's got 322 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns, which is a positive. But during the Northern Illinois game where Notre Dame was upset, Riley Leonard was 20 of 32 for 163 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Cost him a football game. So I would give Notre Dame they're on shaky ground. I don't know that Riley Leonard. And in his defense, let me make this comment, too, about running out and purchasing a quarterback. And the East Carolina people will really need to hear this. When there is tremendous value, for instance, when North Carolina State lost Grayson McCall, and this C.J. Bailey kid came walking into the football game, he performed pretty well. Well, he had been through spring ball. He had been through fall ball. At least he had gotten that. And he was integrated into the system. And there wasn't this giant hiccup when he came walking onto the field. I watched the game, and I watched the Clemson game that we can get to later. That was a different animal. But the point I'm making is that there's value. I just know when I was integrating a quarterback into my system, my language, my play calling style, during the young man's first year on the field for me, there were jumps and starts and hiccups and, hey, I thought this and we thought that. The second year, there was some of that. Third year, none of that. Fourth year, baby, we were humming. My quarterbacks could probably call plays for me, once we got things going, and they did a lot. I let my quarterbacks always call the 2-minute drill. I let them call it. We had a little 5-play series, and here we went. But I just don't know, let's say Riley Leonard right now, he's had 4 games at Notre Dame. He had 3 or 4 years at Duke. And I can tell you when you change languages, even though the play is a play you recognize and a play you have done numerous times before, but we've got to communicate all of that language in a different language in the huddle, and you've got to cipher all that through your former language to get to the fact that, oh, I remember this play. That's not as smooth as it can be, and it matters. It matters. And I think I'm seeing that with some of these transfer quarterbacks. But anyway, Riley Leonard struggling a little bit at Notre Dame. That takes us to Ohio State. They got the Kyle McCord kid. He transferred. They made him transfer out. Okay? Ohio State, if you remember at the end of the Michigan game last year, the Kyle McCord kid, he was playing, and Ryan Day just told that kid, you got to go. They brought in Will Howard from Kansas State. Well, that was a grand slam home run so far. He obviously has integrated into the system rapidly. He's a 69% complete, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and Ohio State is doing what their $20 million roster should be doing, and that's winning rather easily. Their whole season is going to come down to Michigan and the national championship tournament. Okay? That takes us over to UNC, the University of North Carolina. Holy cow, sports fans, I could do an entire week's worth of shows talking about the first 4 weeks of the season at the University of North Carolina. I've been to 2 goat ropings and a county fair, and I've never really seen or heard anything like what I'm watching at Chapel Hill. First of all, they go and buy a quarterback from Texas A&M. That's legit. I got it. Second of all, 3rd play of the season or something like that, the young man breaks his leg. That could happen to anybody. I got it. Okay? But here again, their backup quarterback, Connor Harrell, I believe the young man's name is, okay? He didn't match the hatch. The Texas A&M quarterback is he was in the pocket, pro style. Connor Harrell is a program kid, not that guy. He's a spread, give me an inside zone read, disconnect football, run around, drop back, take one look at one receiver, and start scrambling, baby. That's who and what he is so far from what I've seen, which means that, guess what? Mac Brown at the end of the 2nd game of Connor Harrell, or the 3rd game, I don't know which, they went back to Jacoby Criswell, who had left the program and then came back to the program for his last year. And Jacoby Criswell started the game against the James Madison Dukes, in which the University of North Carolina defense gave up, 50-something points by halftime. I've never seen anything like that. But that's not really what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the quarterback situation. And due to injury, the University of North Carolina's situation, their journey into free agency of the quarterback position has been pretty much a disaster. The Jacoby Criswell kid has some talent, and he is more of what the Johnson kid from Texas A&M that broke his leg, he's more of what he was, which does, like I say, the Loganism of match the hatch. They've got a bit of a chance there. But on the defensive side of the ball, don't even get me started. I don't even know what to say. That takes me to Central Florida. They got C.J. Jefferson. Arkansas had C.J. Jefferson. They wanted him out of the program, and Gus Malzahn over at Central Florida picked him up, and they are 10th in passing efficiency. They're undefeated, and they're rocking and rolling, doing the Gus Malzahn spread offensive idea, and that has been a hit. It was a good fit for C.J.'s, KJ's transition over to Central Florida. So let's give that a plus. Wisconsin, they got Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. Now, this is the guy that left Miami. Guess what? Blew his ACL. He's done. Now guess what they're playing with? Another transfer from Mississippi State. And they are in a world of hurt. They're in a world of hurt at Wisconsin. Suddenly, they're flat as they can be on the offensive side of the football, which takes us to my final little comment, which is East Carolina. Okay? East Carolina, of course, they could have gone and gotten anything, would have been an improvement over what they had last year. And it has been. It has been a huge relief to see an identifiable idea on the offensive side of the football with moments of success. They've had moments of success. And, I'm going to get into the individual games of last week and what's coming up this next week here pretty quick. But I would give East Carolina a positive in the quarterback transition. It worked out. It is working out. I'm not talking about wins and losses, but I'm just talking about at least being functional, because they were in the midst of massive dysfunction last year, all centered around the quarterback position, one singular position, submarined an entire season. So give East Carolina a positive on that end of things. All right, we got a caller. I think, Philip, we got somebody on the line?
Yep, we have Jay on the line.
Jay?
Hey, Coach. Jay Landon down in Wrightsville Beach, America. How you doing? It's been a while.
Jay Landon. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. I'm headed to pick up my 10-year-old daughter from tennis. You're doing a lot of that these days.
Good for you, man.
You're doing well.
Good for you. It's good to... Yeah, everybody's doing good, and I'm glad you're doing good. What you got going, man?
Well, just I saw they're recognizing your 1999 team this weekend in Greenville at the games, so I just wanted to call and, take a trip down memory lane. The saying, you never realize it's the glory days while they're happening, but I know myself and a lot of ECU fans, look back on that season with very fond memories, starting off the season, beating West Virginia, beating Duke, beating South Carolina, and then the game everybody remembers, Miami in Raleigh. So just wanted to, get your, recollection out over 25 years, unbelievably down the road since that game on, what you remembered, that team, that group of guys. I mean, to me, that really kind of epitomized the program that you had built, in the 90s, and just that level of toughness and grit and kind of the underdog role that all Pirates kind of like. And just kind of get your thoughts on, as a coach and as a leader, did you intentionally kind of play into that underdog role? And, how could, people maybe attribute that to whether it's, business or whatever it may be, if you're across the table from somebody that maybe went to Duke or went to a Boston college and, or played tennis in college or played golf in college. And, here you are kind of in that underdog role. You're focused on more, what you can do, or you're kind of looking at them and trying to find their weaknesses. So.
Well, Jay, I'll answer a lot of that and comment on a lot of that. How old were you when all of that took place in 1999? How old were you?
Well, Vince and I, we were seniors in high school, so we were had just gotten to step to East Carolina, but senior at Rose, about to go to East Carolina. Okay. Well, for those of you listening, Jay was my oldest son, and Jay Landon, they played baseball together forever, and Jay has gone on to become a successful guy, which fires me up, Jay. I'm glad that
you're making that journey, and I'll comment on that. And I appreciate you calling, man. I really do. Good to hear from you. But let me tell you, there's 1,000 things flying through my mind about the comments that Jay made, and the approach. The underdog thing is something that has always come a little bit natural to me. I think it stems probably from the fact the first time I put on a football helmet, I was the smallest guy on the field. And, I was determined to, not get, beat up. And if I did get beat up, I was damn sure going to get up. That's all there was to that. My dad, there were no negotiations on those ends of things. So, part of that is in the DNA. And, I grew up that way, and they put a football helmet on me when I was 5 or 6 years old, which would have been 1959, 1960. And then I played till I was 20 years old, and that was plenty enough to get your head beat in. But the point I'm making is that, the underdog thing, I embraced it. It became part of what I was. And certainly when I came to East Carolina and, as an assistant coach, I've told this story before. When I was working under Bill Lewis the first 2 years, I went into my office one day and I had a bit of an epiphany. I was the offensive coordinator, and I'd gone in and we had gone 5-6 the year before. And I broke down the stats, and I looked at the scoring by quarters: first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And what jumped off the page at me, and I took this to Bill Lewis before the 1991 season. I took this to Bill Lewis. I said, Bill, let me show you something here. In the first quarter of every football game last year, it was neck and neck. In the second quarter of every football game, if you just broke the game down into quarters, second quarter, neck and neck. Third quarter, neck and neck. The fourth quarter, there was this magnificent folding by East Carolina football. We lost the fourth quarter all of the 1990 football season, it seemed like. And the total scoring in the fourth quarter was really lopsided. Our opponents won the fourth quarter. And I began to, I showed Bill that, and I made a proposal to him. I said, we need to propose playing and winning the game on the last play of the game. Now, you got to be careful what you wish for, okay? But we took that idea, and I remember, as a motivational trick, I made up some contracts, and we handed them out to the team. I was the offensive coordinator at the time, but we handed them out to the team. Bill was supportive of this, and it was kind of a contract that said, as a player, we typed it up in contract form. As a player, I pledge to play and try to win the game on the last play of the game. Well, if you're going to try to win the game on the last play of the game, that means you're committed to playing through the fourth quarter with everything you've got. Right? Right. Well, we took those little contracts, and I'll never forget the first game of the season. We had the kids sign it, and of course, kids didn't think anything about it. They signed those things. But when we went to Illinois, we took those contracts and pulled them out and taped them to their locker when they showed up to the locker room. And there it was, staring them in the face. Well, that's kind of a motivational trick. We're going to win on the last play of the game. Well, the Illinois game, sure enough, comes down to the last play of the game, and we recovered an onside kick, and that was the first year they had celebration penalties. And Clayton Driver, I'll never forget it, was a really good wide receiver for us, and he celebrated us recovering the onside kick, which would have given us 1 or 2 shots in the end zone on the last play of the game. And we ended up losing that football game, I don't know what it was, 34-31. But our players in that game, the first game of the 1991 season, when we introduced the idea of winning on the last play of the game, they embraced that idea. And the rest was history. I don't know, how many games during that 1991 season. I remember the Virginia Tech game, last play of the game, seems like we won. I remember the Pittsburgh game, last play of the game. We go for 2 and make it, and then we had to play defense right to the very last play, and Alex Van Pelt was the quarterback, who I ended up working with at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Alex went on to a great pro career as Jim Kelly's backup. But anyway, won it on the last play of the game. And that really laid a foundation for the 90s. And it wasn't so much underdog. We talked some David and Goliath. There's no question that we did that in a lot of our pregame stuff. Okay? But it was really all about playing to the last play of the game. We didn't care who it was. And I didn't care if we beat William and Mary on the last play of the game. Or Miami on the last play of the game. But there was also another avenue, the Miami episode. I had 2 episodes with Miami. We went to Miami when in the Orange Bowl, and they had some 40, 50 game win streak going down there. And I remember talking to our football. We had a good football team that year. I think that was 1996. We had a real good football team, and I knew we did. And we went down there, and they had a good football team as usual. But the thing about Miami that I used to preach to our kids on Miami game week, I really kind of detested the way that Miami went about their football business. Now, it worked for them. It was bravado, and it was hit you in the mouth early and often until you just ran away and hid, and a lot of teams did. But when you take the idea of winning on the last play of the game against anybody, I preached to our football team in that 1996 31-6 beating that we put on those clowns. I told them going into that game, if you stay and you don't cower, just stay. The University of Miami's bravado is false, and they'll crumble, particularly when they hit you in the face and you don't blink. I told them, I said, the moment this game starts, it's going to be the fastest game you've ever played in your life. Don't be surprised if they score first. Well, we kicked off to Miami down in the Orange Bowl. They ran about a 5-play drive, and bang, they scored and curiously missed the extra point, but it was 6-0 before I even had my headsets on. And they went running off to their sideline after they scored their touchdown, and they were over there on the sideline laughing and hoo-banging around. And I called my football team together on our sideline, and I pointed across the field, and I said, well, look at them. It's exactly what I told you was going to happen. Don't you dare blink. And we went about our business. And 58 minutes later, it was 31-6. And we beat those guys, physically beat them to death. We knocked 2 quarterbacks out of the game. But the point about that is it was there were 2 avenues there. It wasn't necessarily David and Goliath. It was win on the last play of the game. It didn't even get to the last play of the game, but we were willing to go there. They weren't.
I got stones in my pathway.
Be prepared to win on the last play of the game. And if you're willing to do that, you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish. Fast forward 1999, Miami. It was the last play of the game. I remember Forrest Foster covering whoever that 14-year all-pro wide receiver was they had. Forrest covered him down the field, got a hand up, incomplete pass. Last play of the game, we won. Was it David and Goliath? Yeah, a little bit. But really, it's the last play of the game. And that's true in your personal life, your private life, your professional life. You better be willing to take it to the last play of the game or you're not going to make it. And it's kind of a scary journey. Just don't quit. See you on the other side of commercial.
There's one thing for certain.
Donald Trump's back, and he's out for control.
I would have every right to go after them.
Complete control.
I will wield that power very aggressively.
And he has a plan to get it.
Detailed plans for exactly what our movement will do.
It's called Project 2025, a 922-page blueprint to make Donald Trump the most powerful president ever. Overhauling the Department of Justice, giving giving Trump the unchecked power to seek vengeance, eliminating the Department of Education, and defunding K-12 schools, requiring the government to monitor women's pregnancies, and Trump has also proposed severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Those are Donald Trump's plans.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that. And sometimes revenge can be justified.
He'll take control, we'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. Paid for by Harris for president.
Insurance can be complicated, but Flatlands Jessup makes it easy. While some agencies like to give you just enough information to get your signature, our team strives to provide you with total transparency on the policies you're enrolling. We've got a comprehensive online knowledge center that answers any general questions you have. We aim to empower and educate, not gatekeep. If you'd rather not have to think about it, we've got you covered too. Choose our award-winning team. You're choosing peace of mind. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Homeowners in Eastern Carolina know that we get a lot of rain and roof leaks can lead to major issues with your home. Wells Roofing and Gutters is the name to remember if you have problems like Karen, a homeowner in Pitt County who says she found Jim Wells from his many online positive reviews.
Crew came out, gave me an estimate, gave me a discount for being a veteran, fixed it, and the way that they cleaned everything up is like, I really appreciate that.
Call Jim Wells at 252-227-8403.
In Eastern North Carolina, football and grilling go hand in hand, and Daughtridge Gas and Oil can help you turn your backyard into a grilling oasis. Their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard offers all the appliances and installation services, along with name brand patio furniture. Also, Daughtridge Patio and Hearth Shop can get you ready for fall with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil and realize the potential of your backyard.
I want to take a minute here to tell you about Bill Clark Homes. The football stadium, the baseball stadium, the Pirate Club, whatever it is, Bill Clark Homes has always been there for ECU. The reason they can do all of this is because Bill Clark Homes continues to build quality homes and neighborhoods in both the Greenville area and in the Wilmington area. And whether it's Greenville or Wilmington, you can choose your school district with several homes under construction and available now in both markets. Eastern North Carolina's premier home builder, Bill Clark Homes, building family traditions.
Now,
Go for it every time!
back into the Logan Zone, brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3. Here's Steve Logan.
Well, I thought I heard that Casey when she blows. Yes, I thought I heard that Casey when she blows. I thought I heard that Casey when she blows. She
Back in the Logan Zone.
my baby's gonna go.
All right, let's do this. Got to get into my stack here. Let's take a look at the local, what the locals are dealing with from last week into the coming week. Let's start with East Carolina. I had a complaint last week that I wasn't talking enough East Carolina, and I understand we're in the eastern part of the state and all that, but I'm trying to educate everybody to the wider issues. There's a big world out there, folks. But anyway, so East Carolina, this journey so far this season has been really curious for me to watch. And of course, this thing that happened last week, it didn't, the lightning game delay and all this other stuff. And you already heard, if you listened to the earlier part of the show, there's nobody going to save anybody's life out there running everybody out of a football stadium when there's lightning 400 miles away or whatever they did. And again, I'm way too old for that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry if everybody thinks that that's what you should do. I don't. But, sitting in a locker room 4 hours and then going out and trying to play a football game, I have never, I probably have in 47 years of coaching this crazy sport. I've never seen a football game turn on a dime the way that I watched the East Carolina game against Liberty turn. I didn't write down exactly the particulars, but I do know this. East Carolina was up 17-0, got off to a good start, playing good football, and somewhere along the line, they had a 1st and goal at the 8-yard line and came away with no points. And that game turned upside down immediately from that moment on. And it was just, it was tragic. First of all, not to get a touchdown, this is a Steve Logan thing too. I've said this forever. Field goals are not +3. They're -4. You were in the red zone. You had an opportunity to get a touchdown, and somehow you screwed it up. You had a holding penalty, or you didn't execute a 3rd down play, and you end up kicking a field goal. Well, if, God forbid, you go out and you screw up the touchdown opportunity, and that turns into a missed field goal, particularly inside the 20, this is where the wheels can fall off. I mean, that is truly, in the football world, that's a catastrophic turn of events. And it obviously affected the bench, the mentality, the collective emotions of the East Carolina sideline, and conversely, it energized the Liberty sideline. I'm going to comment a little bit more about East Carolina's journey so far this year. Let me tell you, as a play caller and an offensive coach, let me tell you what was terrifying to me in my career, and it's true of every offensive coordinator and every defensive coordinator. This isn't East Carolina specific, what I'm speaking to. My last year in football was in the XFL. Basically, it was the AAF, but it was the XFL football, Spring League Professional Football. And it happened to me what I feared the most. This is what happened. We played our first game, scored 35 points. We're rock and rolling. I feel pretty good about things. I had kind of a rookie. He was a rookie quarterback from Texas A&M Commerce. And he had come out of basically 1AA football into professional football, and he was my starting quarterback, kid named Luis Perez, still playing in the XFL, doing well. And but Luis was on a steep learning curve. Our second game, we go out and we jumped ahead of our second opponent 10-0. And guess what? The defensive coordinator, most of the coaches in that league were ex-NFL coaches. So I mean, I'm not coaching against some high school Harry. These guys knew what they were doing. And out of nowhere, this opposing defensive coordinator in the second game of the season, midway through the second quarter, simply lined up in Tampa 2 coverage, okay? And dared us to run the football. First, second down, third down, didn't matter. He just lined up in Tampa 2. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was in the press box. Well, guess what? He found out that his defensive front was better than my offensive line, and we could not run the football into a 6-man box with 6 blockers. I'd call a run, or we'd check to a run, which was automatic. 6 blockers, 6 men in the box, call, check to a run. We check to a run. We'd gain 2. Second down, 8. We'd come to the line of scrimmage. Tampa 2, 6 men in the box, 6 blockers, 1 back offense. We'd check to a run. We'd gain 1. Guess what it is now? It's third down 7. Guess what they're lined up in? Tampa 2. Tampa 2 is a hard coverage to break on third down and 7. That's why the coverage exists. It's an outstanding third down coverage, and it's tough to break. And guess what? We couldn't break it. Luis wasn't sophisticated enough in his learning curve to really handle his progressions into Tampa 2. And we punted the football. Guess what happened the next series? Same thing. Guess what happened the next series? Guess what happened for the next 2.5 quarters? Base Tampa 2. First down, second down, third down, we couldn't crack it. Late in the game, we were tied. I'll never forget this. It put a scar on me, as you can tell. It scarred me. But, this is an example of what I'm talking about, which is when a defensive coordinator unlocks the secret to what it is you can't crack. Late in the game, it was 10-10, and I remember I called a deep end cut, a progression of routes that should have ended up to the deep end cut on Tampa 2, but Luis had yet to find the deep end cut. And finally, before I sent him out on his last series of the game, I said, Luis, I'm going to call a dig principle, and I want you to throw the ball to Jacques, who was one of our receivers, played flanker for me. Just throw it to him. Now, that's a deadly idea for a quarterback coach to tell a quarterback who to throw the football to, because if it gets intercepted, the professional quarterback's going to blame you, and he should. Okay? But I was so desperate, I told Luis who to throw the football to, and he did, and we completed about a 24-yard end cut that had been sitting there all day long. We finally completed it, kicked a field goal on the last play of the game, and won the game something like 13-10. It was the ugliest victory of my life, and I'm still scarred and upset about that victory. What's the point of the story? The point of the story is this. When an opposing coordinator puts the key to your demise on film, and then that film makes the rounds, guess what your future opponents are going to do to you? Exactly that. I told that story to tell you this. East Carolina's defense is blitz heavy, and it's well thought out, and it's a good defense. And it's a problem, okay? It's a problem. The App State offensive coordinator did a masterful job of mixing up his protections from maximum protections to 5-man protections. So you got a 5-man protection, 6-man protection, 7-man protection. The App State offensive coordinator did a really nice job of mixing his protections up, keeping the East Carolina defense off balance. When to blitz, do blitz, don't blitz. Let's play coverage, let's do blitz. Oh, man, they were in a maximum protection, picked our blitz up, and we gave up a home run ball. That's the chess game that's involved. And Appy State did a nice job of that. Guess what happened in the Liberty game? Liberty offensive coordinator saw that film. He did a nice job. Once that game flipped on the no points, being up 17-0, once that game flipped, the Liberty offense came alive, and the Liberty offensive coordinator did a nice job of mixing up maximum protections, taking shots, and going back to his 5- and 6-man protections with some ball control passing. And it was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I think the last 4 drives of the game were touchdowns. But the point I'm making is that when somebody unlocks the key to victory against you, it's terrifying. And you better make an adjustment moving forward, because the other team watches film too. The next time we lined up in the XFL, the very next game, we broke the huddle, and I'm sitting in the press box. And I said, there it is, Tampa 2 for the 3rd game. There it was, right there. The other defense coordinator saw it. We couldn't crack Tampa 2 in game 2. We walked out there in game 3, and buddy, let me tell you what, Tampa 2 was all over the field, but let me tell you what, I knew that was coming. And all we did all week long was prepare Tampa 2 beaters, and I prepared my rookie 1AA quarterback for his 3rd professional football game to throw to the correct receiver and get through his progressions in Tampa 2 and begin to pick that coverage apart. And we did. That's coaching. So when, if you look up and somebody's cracking your code, whether you're a defensive coach or an offensive coach, you better recognize they've cracked your code, and it better terrify you And you better change your approach. I've talked to you, baseball is a great analogy to football. You go out there and throw 95-mile-an-hour fastballs the first 2 times through a lineup in the Major League Baseball system, you'll strike them out, and they won't get very many hits. You go through that 3rd time throwing 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, you're going to watch balls going 450 feet going over your head. They will catch up. They'll adjust. You better have 2 pitches, which gets back to the Bill Walshism that I quote incessantly. Personal life, private life, professional life, you better have a contingency plan ready to go, or you're going to get smoked. You better have a contingency plan. You better have plan A. You better have plan B. You better have plan C. Because the other team, they're watching film. We'll be back in a minute.
Medlin Chevrolet is your trusted Ayton dealership. Medlin Chevrolet has made their home in Ayton, serving Pitt, Lenoir, and surrounding areas for 7 years. Because of local support and dedicated employees, we are growing. Just breaking ground on our brand new service facility to serve you even better. Medlin Chevrolet has an incredible pre-owned vehicle inventory. Our staff are courteous and service-minded professionals that provide value and integrity Monday through Saturday. Find the perfect vehicle for your lifestyle today at Medlin Chevrolet, Highway 11, Ayton.
Hey, it's me again, Gray Fussell, 4th generation winemaker at Duplin Winery and proud alum of ECU. I'm looking forward to Pirate football and, of course, tailgate. I love to see you bring your favorite Duplin wine to your tailgate, tag us on our Instagram or TikTok, and my dad and I will pick our favorite photo from each home game. A winner will be chosen, and you'll get a basket of our best Duplin swag. So get your Duplin wine from your favorite store or come see us at one of our wineries. Go Pirates!
Hey folks, this is Coach Logan. For outdoor storage, maybe a she shed, man cave, tiny home, or greenhouse, it's East Carolina Outdoor Products. They carry wood sheds, small to large, all customizable online. East Carolina Outdoor Products also has a full line of custom steel buildings, including carports, garages, workshops, and commercial-graded structures. You can't build, sell, and deliver sheds in East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it down, ECOP of NC.com.
Tell them Coach Logan sent you for an additional discount.
Get back to work, back to play, and back to the everyday with Orthopedics East and Sports Medicine Center in Greenville. Ortho East specializes in advanced care for patients with osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, debilitating joint diseases, and total joint replacements. Schedule your appointment today by going online to orthoeast.com or by calling us at 252-757-BONE. And remember, our weekend extended care clinic is open from 10 to 2 p.m. for walk-ins. Orthopedics East, official team physicians of ECU Athletics.
Wear your colors with pride, whether it be ECU or any of the high schools in Pitt County. Stadium Sports on Charles Boulevard has all the merchandise and tailgating gear for the season. Stadium Sports is where the Pirate Nation shops. And it's also the place for hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, and hats to show your support of your favorite Pitt County high school. With tons of brands like Adidas, 1211 Designs, Champion, Cutter & Buck, Costa, Calcutta, and more. You'll find the style you want. Check out the new t-shirts and hats from Pirate Coast. Stadium Sports beside the railroad overpass on Charles Boulevard, Greenville.
Why just be a customer when you can be a priority? At North Carolina Farm Bureau, we're focused on your specific needs. That's why we have local agents working for you in every county across the state, offering competitive rates and fast, friendly service. It's more than insurance. It's the kind of treatment you deserve. Farm Bureau Insurance. Helping you is what we do best.
In Greenville, contact Bill King at 252-413-8850. That's Bill King at 252-413-8850.
Coach Steve Logan wants to hear from you. Tweet at Steve Logan Show or call 252-561-GAME to jump into the Logan Zone on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
Back in the Logan Zone, you can take a trip, consolidate debt, update your home, pay off medical bills, whatever you're planning. A personal loan up to $5,000 can help. With National Finance Company, you can get cash now, loans up to $5,000. Same-day cash and fixed monthly payments. If you need to borrow money, trust the company that has been helping Carolinians for more than 50 years. Huge East Carolina Pirates supporters. National Finance Company. Apply to any of the 24 North Carolina locations or at nfcmoney.com. There's that. I know we've got a good number. I get some tweets and stuff. I know we've got a good number of North Carolina State listeners to this program, which is great. I want it to be that way. I like to, talk about the locals. And, the North Carolina State, there was some wailing and gnashing of teeth because of what happened with the Clemson game. And, the Clemson game this last week with North Carolina State kind of reminded me of the Mike Tyson deal where he said, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. And, I'll tell you what, Clemson, now there's another quarterback conversation there. Clemson has found their quarterback. And I think that if they had another opportunity at Georgia, things could be different. But they got off to a bad start against Georgia, same thing. But in reverse, North Carolina State came out of the gates, and Clemson came out of the gates, and North Carolina State never got up off the carpet, hardly. But the good news is, I watched that game. I made myself stay with it, and North Carolina State showed some resilience, and they came out and put 28 points on in the second half. The Bailey kid, the new freshman starter, he was 16 of 25, 200 yards, touchdown, and an interception. Which I've talked about this before. Freshmen invariably, for every touchdown they throw, will throw an interception. I mean, it's just kind of like built in. And, there's a few freshmen that don't behave that way, but the normal freshman is, they're going to throw a touchdown pass. They're going to turn right around and throw an interception. And they have to learn, that's that word discernment, again, when and when not to. And that's a learned behavior, and it's part of the journey of developing a quarterback. But, North Carolina State, surprisingly, they are 127th in the nation. I think there's 132 teams, Division I, or, supposedly Division I. They're 127th in the nation, giving up 37 points per game. I promise you, nobody in the North Carolina State community thought that was going to happen after 4 games this season. But that's where they are. Now, they're scoring 28 points a game, which is only 80th in the country. And, you say, well, that's not very good. Well, you in this day and age, you need to put 30 points on the board. You need to put 30 points on the board as a starting place. Well, they're sitting there at about 28 points a game, which is manageable. It's repairable, I should say, because, they're sitting kind of exactly where they were last year after the Duke game when Duke just beat the devil out of them. And everybody was ready to fire Dave Dorn. They went into their ACC schedule and ran off 5 victories. And I spoke about this last week, and everybody got way too high about that and declared them ready to go and run for the national championship this year. It was nothing like that. It was just ACC football. And I've coached in the ACC. I've said this before, and again, I don't want this to sound pompous. It's just experience. I've coached in the SEC. I've coached in the ACC. It's nothing like each other. Nothing. Almost every game in the ACC, each opponent can look across the sideline and say, hey, we got a chance. In the SEC, that is not the case if you're at the bottom of the league or even in the middle of the league. Auburn, for instance, is in the middle of the SEC right now. And they look across the sideline and they see Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. It's not, you don't have a chance, not much of a chance. North Carolina State, okay, they've got Northern Illinois this week. They can rebound. After that, they've got Wake Forest. They can win. After that, they've got Syracuse. They can win. After that, they've got Cal. Now, they're probably not going to win that football game. They got to fly to California and play the University of California. That 3-hour sleep time, I'm just telling you, be on alert for that football game. But let's go on. They got Stanford at home. They can win that football game. They've got Duke at home. They can win that football game. Then they go to Georgia Tech, and then they got UNC at UNC, which they've proven they can go over there and beat those guys just about any time they want. So what's the point? The point is this. For the North Carolina State people, listen to this program. You still got a good season ahead of you. I think you're sitting there, I don't know, what are you, 2-2, 3-2 right now? And, you know, you've lost some games that you hoped you were going to play better in, the Tennessee and the Clemson game. All that really did is show you that the expectations were out of line. And let me comment on that for one little deal here. How did the expectations get out of line? It didn't come from the head football coach. And I've been down this road. It came from some writers at, I don't know, where's the magazine that you buy these magazines. I've got one right here. What is it? College Football, Athlon Sports. I can open that thing up right now and it's, oh my goodness, North Carolina State, they're low. They got a chance. They got to transfer a quarterback. He was the missing link. Watch out for North Carolina State. And all of a sudden the alumni start reading that. Oh my goodness, look how good we're going to be. You know, they shouldn't fire Dave Doran. You know who they ought to fire? I can tell you right now. I'm going to give you a name right now. Let me look it up. Let's have some fun here. Because I've been down this road, as you can tell. It doesn't, of course, this is classic. The magazine doesn't really give you the name of the guy that wrote all of this about North Carolina State in the preseason. But that's the guy they should fire. The guy that wrote all that crap. Dave Doran wasn't the one standing up there pounding his chest saying we're going to win the national championship. Some clown at Athlon Sports wrote that. And then the poor alumni that most of them never had a jock on in their life consume that and get all jacked up. And guess what? Tennessee beats you 50,000-0. So does Clemson. And the alumni are ready to fire Dave Doran for not living up to the expectations brought to you by some writer that probably was the last guy picked in every backyard football game, wrote that North Carolina State's going to be a world beater this year. That's the guy that should be fired if we lived in any kind of a halfway sensical world, which we don't. Got my blood pressure up. Anyway, North Carolina State's in not bad shape, and they can rebound. How much time we got left? We've got 4 or 5 minutes?
5.
Okay. That takes me to the University of North Carolina, folks. You know, I speak at 2 or 3 conferences a year to corporate groups, leadership, teamwork, things like that. And I have never in my life seen anything like what I saw in Chapel Hill last week. First of all, starting with the football game. Now, I've been beaten badly. I remember particularly in 1997 when we were in a total rebuild. We went to Syracuse, and they had Marvin Harrison and the crew that all went to the NFL, and they beat us $60 billion or 60 billion points to nothing or 7 or something ridiculous. But it was Syracuse. And we came home from that beating, and we began to get reorganized. And if you go back and look from that game on, we kind of got reorganized and went about our business and got back up on our feet, up and running again. I really have never been down the road that Chapel Hill went down this last weekend, where an inferior, truly inferior opponent came in and put 50-something points on the scoreboard at halftime, and then scored a total of 70 points by the end of the game and embarrassed the university at home to where the people in the stadium were walking out. Then to cap it off, the head coach goes in the locker room and asks the team if they still want him to be the coach. Never, ever have I seen anything like that? And then here, from a leadership principle, I still can't process what happened. But I will say this, in true the University of North Carolina fashion, you watch this weekend, they'll decide to get interested and show up, and they'll beat an undefeated Duke team. You watch. Which is a further indictment that there's a big problem. For James Madison to come in and put 70 on you and turn around this next coming week, you watch. North Carolina will probably beat Duke. That is an indictment that something's not right. Something's not right. You can't decide to play this Saturday and just choose to not play the next Saturday. There's a hole in the fabric, and it's disturbing as a casual fan, as a radio commentator. That's disturbing, and it just doesn't add up, and it doesn't make any sense. In the meantime, like I say, Chapel Hill's got Duke. They'll probably fool around and win that game because they always show up for the Duke game. Then they got Pittsburgh, which happens to be undefeated. Georgia Tech, Virginia, Florida State, probably ought to beat Florida State. Wake, probably ought to beat Wake. Boston College, probably not going to beat Boston College. Boston College, it would be impossible for James Madison to go score 70 points against any Boston College football team that ever suited up and put cleats on. I've been there. I know the DNA. I know the kid. I know the fabric. Strange times in Chapel Hill, bro. In the meantime, Duke, 4-0. Duke did win the quarterback lottery. Locally, Duke won the quarterback lottery. That Malik Murphy, is that his name? Yep, Malik Murphy. That kid's good. I don't think Duke's a very good football team, but their quarterback is elevating the program as we go right now. All right, that's all the damage I can do for this week. I'll see y'all next Thursday. Thanks for listening.